Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 1st of November. Hi, I'm Michael Gable, Managing Director of Fairmont Equities. Your Stock Request is a weekly video where we take your requests and I analyse the share price chart for you. This week I'm looking at Telstra, Western Areas, Oz Minerals, Nufarm and Citadel. So if you have a request, please email it through. Make sure you share this video around on social media and just bear in mind that any advice here is general only. So starting off with Telstra, this is the weekly chart. Let's just zoom in to the daily chart. I think what's interesting is this recent price action. So it's clearly forming a symmetrical triangle. So we've had a nice sort of rally up, so a very impulsive move, and we can see that it's spent the last sort of 2 months tracking sideways against about a week's worth of price action. So that's quite bullish. We should soon get a breakout of this triangle. Normally you'd get a breakout in the direction of the preceding trend. So if it was heading up, makes the triangle. Normally you see the breakout in this direction. My only concern is price action within the triangle. So ideally we'd like to see sort of a nice spike up, slow move back, spike up, slow move back. We've got the opposite here, so we've got this sort of sharp move down, takes a while to get up here, gets sold down quickly. So just a little bit concerned about that sort of price action, but in the meantime it looks like a hold. We just need to wait for confirmation of a breakout. Western Areas, so it's come back quite a bit in the last few months or so, but what I've noticed is if we just look at the weekly chart here, we do have this clear sort of 5-wave decline now. So that is likely to be finishing up. So wave 1 is about the same length as wave 5. The third wave is the impulsive move. So it all looks sort of like a textbook example of a 5-wave decline. If we zoom out a bit more, okay, so we've got this sort of downtrend line here which broke at the end of last year, and what it's done is it's done a 5-wave decline to I guess test that support. So looks like we should be getting support here. We should get a bit of a rally, especially if we move over to the daily chart. We'll see some divergence. So as we've gone to a slightly new low in the last few days, we could see on the daily RSI it's actually trending up. So this is what we mean by divergence. So this is trended higher while this is trended lower. Normally you get a bit of a move off that. I'd expect at least a 3-wave advance to over $3. So if we just grab our Fibonacci tool, if we're going to get a decent move here, it'll probably head up to the 61.8%, which as you could see is probably a bit of resistance anyway. So if we, as I said, if we do get a decent move here, we could see it just above $3. Oz Minerals, weekly charts. So just looking at the last sort of drive up here, let's measure the retracement. Okay, pretty much retraced 50%, sort of intra-week 61.8%, so it's found good support. And bounced off that. So just this combination of candles here in the weekly chart I think looks pretty positive. So a nice move up here, a bit of a sharp move down, but a quick sort of recovery, and so far this week that's looking pretty good as well. So I think that we're going to see Oz Minerals head higher, and it'll probably go to a new high if this move is now over. Moving over to Nufarm, so let's zoom out here with our weekly chart. As we could see in the last few months, it's been a very slippery slope there for Nufarm. It's not really at any sort of support level. If we have a look at the daily chart, yeah, sure, we're seeing this sort of divergence again on the weekly. but it's such a, the recent move is pretty sharp. And moving back to the weekly chart, it just doesn't seem as though it's near any sort of support levels. So we may get a short-term bounce, but it's just hard to say if there'll be much in it. We might come back closer to $5 where there should be support, and maybe that's the low point for it. And finally, Citadel, CGL, very nice looking uptrend. We've got a bit of price rejection here on the weekly chart in both directions. So sort of on the top side, then down below, price rejection here, price rejection there. So I guess a lot of indecision there. But if we move to the daily chart, we could see that it is still making these higher highs, higher lows. The trend still looks good. So I think the odds are that this will continue to trend higher and go to a new high. Okay, well that's it for this week. If you have a request, send it through and I'll try to cover it next week.